you ever felt a deep, burning desire to do something or accomplish something in this lifetime? Do you feel like there's this hunger that you're aching for, longing for, that needs to be fulfilled? Well, these might just be evidence of your lunar nodes, more specifically, your north node. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Life in the Cosmos with me, Reilly Adair. Today, we are going to be talking about the lunar nodes in a birth chart and what that means. So, what are the nodes? The nodes are mathematical points of the ecliptic. So, there's always the north node and the south node. And eclipses bounce back and forth between these nodes. So it takes about a year and a half for the nodes to change signs. So right now, since September of 2024, we've had eclipses in Pisces and Virgo. So the nodes, the south node is currently in Virgo, the north node is in Pisces, and eclipses have been happening between these 2 points in the sky. Because, like everything in life, everything works in polarities. Polarities are two sides of the opposites, and or two sides of the same coin, if you will. So, the nodes are the points in the sky where the eclipses actually occur. So the nodes actually move backwards in zodiacal order. So the planets move in the opposite direction. The planets move in a counterclockwise motion, and then the nodes actually move in a clockwise motion. So it's kind of funny because in astrology, everything moves counterclockwise, and in with the nodes it's the opposite. So it takes about 18 months for the nodes to change signs. So that's enough of the technical jibber jabber. Let's get into what the nodes are. The north and south node are often called the head and the tail of the dragon. The north node, which is often called Rahu in Vedic astrology, is the head of the dragon, the thing we are destined to eat and consume in this lifetime. It's the place where we get hungry and we're like, hungry. I need to experience this in this lifetime. And then the south node is the tail of the dragon, also called Ketu in Vedic astrology. And Ketu is where we go to excrete the waste of what we've eaten. It's the thing that we have to let go of. So in evolutionary astrology, these two things go hand in hand. There's something you're destined to hunger for and learn in this lifetime, presumably because it's you haven't picked up that lesson in any of your other lifetimes. And in this life, this is something you're destined to move towards. And conversely, there's an inheritance that you had, which is the South Node. The South Node has a lot to do with inheritances, things from the past, ways of being that you're so comfortable in that you have to let go of in this lifetime and actually move towards the other end of the polarity. So, for example, let's just say that you have a Libra North Node and an Aries South Node. So, this would mean that your trajectory in life, what you're destined to learn in this lifetime, what you need to learn in this lifetime to balance the scales is learning how to work in harmony with other people, learning how to not just go it alone and hold someone's hand and work as a couple or work with your friends, like how to actually work with other people in a way that is beneficial for all parties that are involved and in a way that prioritizes the harmony of the relationships that you are destined to work on, basically. Whereas with the South Node or K2 in Aries, you would have spent lifetimes as a warrior. And even if we don't get into like evolutionary astrology, which is basically astrology based on the belief that you are reincarnated many times over, which would say that yeah, in a past life you were a gladiator or a warrior or like specifically for Aries on K2 or K2 Aries, Aries on the South Node. So it would say that in your last life you were so good at being violent, at being mean, at taking, you know, taking everything that you need for yourself and not getting overly concerned with other people and how they feel about it, which sometimes that is just like the way that we need to be. But the nodes are in this lifetime are saying, in this life, you need to learn how to let go of that warrior spirit, let go of the one for one attitude, and learn how to adapt in cooperation with others. So, Rahu or the North Node is something that we haven't learned yet, but something we feel an insatiable desire for. There's a hot, hungry heat that comes with the head of the dragon. And the South Node or Ketu, or the tail of the dragon, is where we need to let go. It's where we are need to unburden ourselves. It's literally like where we need to shit. If Rahu is eating, South Node, K2 is shitting out the waste because we can't always hold on to everything. The South Node is about letting go and disentangling yourself from the inheritances of your past, disentangling yourself from ways of being that you're already extremely familiar with. So you may notice this because what we're talking about right now is having the nodes in your natal placement, so the nodes in your birth chart, and that will be what the majority of this episode is about. But you can also apply this to what you know about eclipses. So if you have eclipses on the south node, like we just did a few weeks ago with the south node eclipse in Virgo, whatever that part of your life that Virgo rules, the South Node eclipses are asking you to learn how to disentangle your identity from that part of your life. So let's say by the with these eclipses, Virgo is your fourth house and Pisces is your 10th house of career. So with the South Node being in Virgo, you may have to be disentangling yourself from a home that you once had, deciding that the home you have is not what's right for you, or even disentangling yourself from your family and from familial patterns that no longer serve you. And that's why South Node eclipses can be so difficult because there's because losing something and letting go of something that no longer serves you is, I think, inherently often a very painful and liberating process where it's like, I have to let go of this thing that I become overly comfortable in because it no longer serves me. So either it's gonna go violently, and be like a swift ending to something that you once held dear, or it's gonna be more of a slow burn death situation where you have to take a step back and analyze the situation and see it for what it truly is and decide yourself to no longer identify with that as much, to no longer have that part of your life be so important. And then with Rahu in currently in Pisces, whatever. So if the South Node was in the fourth house of Virgo and Rahu's in the 10th house of Pisces, that would make it so that as you let go of these familial patterns, you are hungering for a new start in your career, a new start in your public face to create something that is meaningful. And so it's like, the nodes are all about balancing of the scales. It's like, what did you learn really well in your last life? Or even if we don't want to take an evolutionary perspective, like, what do you just already know how to do via your inheritance? Like, did you grow up with a family where you had to always like fight and be tough and be strong and be like, always fighting for everything you need. But then as you grow older, you realize you can't always bear, the cross of a warrior. Sometimes you have to learn how to not fight, how to put your sword down, and how to resolve things peacefully or get what you want through means of cooperation. So there's always something that you come into this life overly aware of how to do. And the North Node is going to say, but I need you to learn something different in this life. I need you to let go of that way of being that you are so comfortable in. And I'm going to ask you to be uncomfortable and to stretch your arms out and to try a new way of being in this world. So, wherever your south node is, that's the part of your life where you are very good at it. This is something that you're already probably deeply tied to, or you're just born knowing how to live out that part of your life. So, I'll give you another example. If your south node is in Capricorn and your north node is in Cancer, the South Node would say that in Capricorn, you know how to think practically, how to think about things in terms of like, okay, I'm gonna get this job, and then once I get this job, I'll have X amount of money, and then I'll put that X amount of money into buying a house, and then I'll do this, and then it's like basically Capricorn has this like coldness to it because it's so dedicated to building a structure that's going to last a very long time that Capricorn's willing to sacrifice its comfort in the immediate to build something that's going to be long lasting as well. Capricorn is comfortable not getting into the nitty-gritty emotions and purely focusing on the grounded earthly matters of life. It is an earth sign after all. But having the South Node there is going to ask you in this life, you're going to be asked to disentangle yourself from always being so concerned about making sure that you have everything you need for, your retirement. And it's going to ask you to connect to your emotional center and to find ways of emotionally feeling safe and to prioritize your emotional world because Cancer on the North Node is Cancer's caring, Cancer's connected, Cancer's emotional, Cancer loves its creature comforts. Like, don't ask Cancer to be uncomfortable. That is not going to go well for you. So that's the energy that you need to get more comfortable seeking out in this life and perhaps let go of always having everything together in your external environment to focusing more on your internal world and your emotional well-being and finding comfort. Another one would be like if you have Taurus on the North Node on Rahu and a Rahu in Taurus and then Ketu in Scorpio, it's going to ask you to Ketu in Scorpio or the South Node in Scorpio is would show someone who's extremely comfortable living in this world where there was constant pain and transformation and intensity. So this could have you, because Scorpio's ruled by Mars, this could have you coming into life feeling a bit like a CIA spy. Like you have to always be 10 steps ahead of everyone else. You have to be extremely wary of your surroundings at all times because Scorpio's paranoid, sometimes with good reason. You have to constantly be transforming and seeking out the darkness and the intensity of life. So this could show up as like as a child, did you grow up in an environment where you were placed in darker underbellies of life and you learned how to transform and rise above because that's just honestly what you had to do? Or do you feel like you kind of just came into this world with a natural level of suspicion and paranoia and also like a deep connection to intensity, chaos, transformation, and the emotional and spiritual realms, right? So having Rahu or the North Node in Taurus, it's going to ask you to basically start to learn how to indulge in life's pleasures because Scorpio is Mars and Taurus is Venus, ruled by Venus. So if Mars is all war and anger and aggression, Venus is like, girl, let me live and enjoy my life and enjoy the art and just the pleasures of life. It's going to ask you to, having the North Node in Taurus is going to ask you to become less addicted to searching out for searching out intensity and transformation in your life and learn how to be more comfortable with stability and groundedness and pleasure and, creating things in your comfortable world for yourself materially because the earth signs are always going to represent the material world, the external world. So this could be moving away from the occult and learning how to find your peace just walking through nature and having a home and learning how to. Taurus is very stable and Scorpio is chaos and intensity. So it's like asking you to learn how to find comfort and peace in who you already are and not constantly feeling a need to transform. So, I mean, it's interesting because we can think about like why, where do our South Node characteristics come from? Does it come because it's an inheritance? Is this just a way of being that we learned from our family members? Or is this a way of being that we learned in a past life? I would love to hear your comments because I'm so curious and I just want to know, like, with your South Node and your connection to your South Node, where do you think that comes from for you? So when I'm describing these and going through the signs, I know I'm saying, North Node in one and South Node in the other. Basically, you can take what I'm saying and flip the two, right? You can basically just imagine the inverse, and that's your answer. If you have, the North Node, and let's say if you have the North Node in Scorpio and the South Node in Taurus, your mission in life is to step away from the earthly comforts of your South Node in Taurus and step away from that constant need for security and groundedness and step into a world of transformation and allowing yourself to acknowledge the dark parts of life and allowing yourself to lean more into the mystical and into the emotional undercurrents of the worlds and of the water emotional sign of Scorpio, and to not get so stuck in the earthly and material plane that Taurus rules. So I hope this makes sense because basically, wherever your Rahu or North Node is, that's what you hunger for. Wherever your South Node is, that's what you're comfortable with. And this is what we have to slowly move away from. So let's say you have your North Node in Gemini and your South Node in Sagittarius. So Gemini is a lively mercurial sign ruled by Mercury. So mercurial just means to be constantly changeable. Gemini loves getting into a lot of little ponds of information and dipping their feet in all of them and then communicating about what they've learned and being able to communicate about what they know because Gemini has like the gift of the gab. And Sagittarius is this broad speaking, this Sagittarius is this sign that loves large concepts, anything that's larger than life. It's able to synthesize a lot of information and understand it at great depth because one of the key aspects of Sagittarius is its ability to synthesize. Think of it, Sagittarius is a centaur. It's a horse and a human holding a bow and arrow. Gemini is the twins. It's two of the same things. Like it's being able to be two at once. It's a lot about communication. Sagittarius is our Sagittarian people are amazing thinkers, amazing philosophers. They're often larger than life. They're very loud and often like boisterous people. Like they're not the people that you can squish into a box and expect them to fit there. Whereas Gemini can move into whatever world it needs to be. Like you never have to worry about a Gemini. Geminis are so mutable. They're so movable that they can go walk into any room and have something to talk about with someone. And they're able to communicate their ideas extremely clearly, but they may not have gone to the depth of knowledge and research that a Sagittarian would. So if you have your North Node in Gemini, part of your life's purpose will be to move away from these big Sagittarian concepts of philosophy and learn how to actually communicate those ideas in a way that makes sense to other people around you. And we could even take this one step further and say Sagittarius is often the teacher and Gemini is often the student. And I don't think it's because Gemini has less to offer. I think it's just because Gemini has an insatiable curiosity and about many things, about all things really. Whereas Sagittarius people, they'll have a curiosity, but it might be their scope might be much smaller. They might be more interested in philosophy, and they love to play the role of teacher. And so it might be if you have a North Node in Gemini, you're learning how to allow yourself to be a student and not an expert, right? Or let's again reverse this. If you have your North Node in Sagittarius and your South Node in Gemini, it's moving away from these short discussions and these little just like blips of getting information and moving on and moving into and always being a student and moving into the process of being a teacher, of taking all the information that you already have and actually giving it to the masses. Obviously, then we get into some interesting questions about is Sagittarius a good communicator? There's a lot to be we can think about that for a little bit because Gemini is definitely superior in communicating, but Sagittarius definitely goes a little bit deeper into the knowledge that they are curious about. So Gemini's also, when I think of like, Gemini's also like a quick trip type of person. And I don't mean this literally, but if Sagittarius, being ruled by Jupiter, is about long sojourns abroad and great travels and diving into temples and becoming a Buddhist and like working your way up through a temple so that you've achieved a level of mastery and then really expanding and changing your worldview because you fully immerse yourself into something different. Gemini's like more like, oh, took a trip to Miami, I took a trip to New York, I took a trip to Budapest, and I learned a little bit about every single place that I went, and I met tons of people, and I talked to all of them, and it was just awesome. And now I'm like, and it's like every experience, I have curiosity to move me forward into a different and new experience, and I'll never stop rotating through all these new experiences because I just have an insatiable curiosity. Whereas Sagittarius is gets more into more deeply into one thing. We can also think about the difference between Jupiter's big and large. Everything with Jupiter is big and large. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury's all about the details. Mercury's all about the little things. So it's having a North Node in Gemini, it's maybe learning how to prioritize the details a little bit more, the little parts of communication, the like articles, blog posts, the magazines instead of the Sagittarian books, theses, um, dissertations for your PhD. It's like Gemini's the quick course, and Sagittarius is like the year-long, lifelong study. We can also compare this difference between Jupiter and Mercury when we look at Pisces and Virgo, right? So let's say if you have your North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces, your North Node is asking you to, if it's in Virgo, is going to ask you to be more present with the small details of life, to be able to actually take yourself out of the clouds, which is Pisces, and to see all the small details and to think analytically and practically and logically about your current environment that you're actually in and what needs to be done to get to where you want to go. It's going to basically ask you to take your head out of the clouds and to put your feet on the earth and then to take careful stock of every single thing that's around you. Because Virgo, let's talk about these signs. Virgo is analytical. Virgo is the consummate editor, right? Like Virgo can read an entire article and they'll be able to tell you the two mistakes that no one else would be able to catch. Pisces will love with no limits. It will love endlessly with compassion. And Virgo's going to have a pros and cons list for every single person they've ever dated. And they're going to be acutely aware of the downfalls of every single person. Because at the end of the day, Virgo is critical and analytical. And this can be very helpful because it can help us refine our lives. And it allows, Virgo energy allows us to focus on the everyday routines. Is our house clean? Is our car clean? How are we moving in ways that support our current reality? Whereas Pisces is dreaminess, Pisces is idealism, escapism, Pisces is endless compassion and tolerance, and Pisces is not concerned with the details of the everyday world and the minutia of reality, basically. Pisces is the undercurrents of all the realms combined. It's the astral world, it's the spirituality, it's everything that's not right in front of our eyes. It's connecting our heart to something that's much larger and bigger than us, whereas Virgo's asking us to remember the details, right? So let's say if you have the North Node in Virgo, you're going to have to let go of this way of being where you're like almost overly spiritual, overly giving, give people too many chances, and constantly seeing life through basically more of a spiritual, esoteric lens and learn how to actually put your feet on the ground. Whereas if you had the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, you're just going to learn how to do the opposite. You're going to learn how to get your head out of just everything that's right in front of you because you just get so bogged down in the details all the time and you're constantly being like, well, this person's good, but they're not good enough, and that's good, but it's not good enough, and because of X, X, and X, and X, and it's going to ask you to put your checklists away, put your constant analysis and criticism away and lean into this body of ocean, like, and this ocean of endless love and emotion, and allow yourself to dream about a world that doesn't even exist. Allow yourself to escape, allow yourself to lean into the fantastical and get out of the mundane. So let's move on to Aquarius and Leo. So we'll start by kind of describing the signs. Aquarius is extreme is a very humanitarian sign. Aquarius is very concerned with the structures of the world. Aquarius is like, how have we created an environment where everyone can thrive and where everyone can do what they need and be who they need and get what they need. And Aquarius thinks not about just themselves, they think about everybody. Aquarius is very forward thinking. It's very can also be pretty cold and very detached. It's like a very cooling sign, right? It's ruled by Saturn. This is contrasted with its sister sign of Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. Leo is warmth. Leo is light. Leo is creativity. Leo is not worried about the structures. Leo is honestly not worried about other people, like very much at all. Like Leos can be great friends. Don't get me wrong, they can be the warmest people you'll ever meet, but Leo are the performers. They're the ballerinas. They are the pop stars. Like Leo is like, how can I how can I be the queen of this structure? Whereas Aquarius is like, what is the structure we're living in, and do we really need a queen? But Leo's like, but I'll dance center stage. I'm going to create this grand performance, and it's going to be this like beautiful creative spectacle, basically. So if you have your North Node in Leo, you have to lean into that creative energy. You have to lean into that energy that allows you to be the star of the show, that allows you to care more about yourself, your path, and the spectacle that you're making of your life, and less about the cold, harsh realities of the world. You already were a humanitarian, presumably in your last life. You already know how to care about people and how to distance yourself. Aquarians are very, there's a level of emotional coldness and detachment from themselves, from their emotions, from others. There's a need for that intellectual stimulation, um, because Aquarius is always thinking 10 steps ahead. And I think they're just often extremely intelligent people because they are an air sign, and the world of the intellect is their domain. Whereas Leo is more interested in warmth. They don't want to be in the cold. They want to be dancing with their friends, laughing. They're the Leo is the warm fire. Aquarius is the dead of winter. So it's having your North Node in Leo, it's moving away from that detachment from yourself and from other people because Aquarians are able to analyze the structures of society by basically essentially removing themselves from it. And that's why they're often called like eccentrics or weirdos because they're on the outskirts, like they're on the fringe. And Leo is the star of the party dancing at the show. So having the North Node in Leo, it's getting more comfortable being the center of attention, being the warmth that people are drawn to, and stepping away from this detachment and this way of being that's cold in a lot of ways. Whereas if you have your North Node in Aquarius and your South Node in Leo, it's learning how to see life from more than just your perspective. Leo can be self-centered at times, and basically, Leo has this tendency to create a world that rotates around them, whereas Aquarius is able to get almost like a bird's eye view and step outside and see the structures that are created. So it's having your North Node in Aquarius, it's learning how to do that, learning how to look at life with a greater level of detachment and almost like you're more of a bystander than the main performer all the time. You have to learn how to basically let someone else get on the stage so that you can get to work analyzing the structures of life and if they are truly right for us and moving away from this like self-centered way of thinking and moving into more of a humanitarian approach, on an approach that doesn't place or like doesn't rely heavily on your emotions but on your intellect. You can see this again with like similar themes with Cancer and Capricorn because Capricorn's all about structure. So Capricorn's gonna build the house, right? Like if you have your South Node, like Capricorn's gonna build the house and it's gonna make sure that all the bills are paid, that they have toilet paper, that, that there's enough money so that if anything happens, we'll be able to pay rent for the next 6 months. Whereas Cancer is gonna make that house a home. Cancer that is gonna remind us that there's more ways to feel security and safety than just in the physical world. We need emotional security and safety. Cancer's going to be the one cooking in the kitchen, having the music on, bringing the laughter, like really prioritizing the familial unit within the house, whereas Capricorn's prioritizing that the familial unit has a place to live. So when we're talking about the nodes, we're basically talking about the polarities of the signs themselves. And there's a reason why these signs are paired up and to be, sister signs, because they are opposite ends of the same polarity. And life is a delicate balance of polarities. Another example, we did touch on this briefly with Aries and Libra. If you grew up, let's say your South Node in Libra, if you grew up always feeling like you had to put other people before yourself and you have to basically put your needs on the back burner if you have your North Node in Aries, it's in this lifetime, you're here to learn how to fight for yourself, how to stand up for yourself, how to claw tooth and nail to get what you want, and to stop living a life of extreme people pleasing and learn how to act selfishly at times. Learn how to, it's not one for them and one for all or whatever type of mentality. It's like one for one. And girl, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get what I want because I deserve it, which is gonna be really difficult if your default setting is people pleasing and caring and prioritizing people over yourself. So it's also Libra loves to deliberate and to ponder and to always think. I think that's why Libras always get the rap for being extremely indecisive. But Aries is action. Aries is, girl, we're gonna shoot first and think about it second. So it's learning how to basically shoot first and think about it second. So we talked about the nodes through the signs, and now let's talk about the houses. So we can kind of think about this quite simply as the signs are the energy and the way that that energy is manifested. The houses are the areas of our life that we're being asked to balance because that's what the nodes do. They ask us to bring something into balance. So let's go through the houses. So let's say you have the nodes in the first and the seventh house, right? The first and the seventh house, the first house is how ourselves. So the first house is the house of identity, ourselves, our body, and just us. It's how we move through the world. The seventh house is the house of the other. It's our marriage partner, one-on-one relationships. It's how we relate to someone else in a relationship. So let's say you have the North Node in the first house and the South Node in the seventh house. You might be coming from a place where you were extremely codependent. You really prioritized relationships, often at the expense of yourself. And relationships played such a major role in your identity and how you identified yourself that maybe you didn't even have an identity outside of your relationship. And with the North Node in the first house, it's asking you to place less emphasis on the realm of relationships and more emphasis on just doing you, figuring out who you are, figuring out how are you going to move through the world and independently. So if we were to put like a tagline, it's independence versus codependence. Self versus relationship. And how do we find and bring those things into balance? You know, if you have your North Node in the first house and you're constantly putting your dreams aside to support your partner, that's not really supportive of what your node is asking you to do, of what the North Node is Rahu is asking you to do. Rahu's asking you to place yourself at the forefront, to learn how to not define yourself through being in a relationship. Let's say you have Rahu in the seventh house and Ketu in the first house. This is asking you, Ketu is going to say that you've been extremely comfortable, you know, living life for yourself, and you've had lifetimes where you've learned this down to a T. You've learned how to choose yourself, and now you're going to have to learn how to be a whole human being inside of a relationship and not prioritize yourself above the relationship. So it's a lot of balancing, you know, sometimes you may go too far to one side and then you gotta roll it right back. You gotta, you know, step a couple of steps back and kind of figure out something different. Let's say you have the nodes in the second and eighth house. The second house is your money, your finances, and your feelings of self-worth. It's something that you've created for yourself and that you have independently. The eighth house is inheritances, other people's money, and, you know, attachments, but always attachments to something or somebody else. Let's say you have K2 or the South Node in the second house. That would imply that in your last life, or the place that you're coming from is someone who's extremely financially and probably emotionally independent, someone who has all their grounds covered for themselves. And in this life, they're being asked to get comfortable with receiving from someone else. Get comfortable having a sugar daddy, basically, or get comfortable being with someone who can provide more than you can financially to basically be comfortable receiving, which honestly to me sounds really very uncomfortable. Let's say you have the South Node in the eighth house and the North Node in the second. It's the opposite. You've gotten so good at learning how to receive and learning how to benefit from other people's money, or like this gives me very much the example of like someone who lived off of their parents' money or had a trust fund, and then for whatever reason that's taken away. And then now they have to learn how to step out on their own. They have to learn how to not rely on what they were given, but learn how to make their own money, make their own feelings of self-worth, find their own value system, step away from what their family valued or their partner valued, and create a value system of their own, as well as a financial foundation of their own. So let's move on to the third and the ninth. The third house is siblings, short-term travel, and education. Usually education that has a definitive start and stop. It's like short form communication as well. So podcasts, blog posts. Honestly, I would even put like TV shows here. And I put films more in the ninth. So the ninth house is, like I said, I'd put like films, dissertations, PhD dissertations, like endless learning, higher learning, such as like university or any learning that has no real definitive end. It's long-term travel, it's going abroad for large periods of time. And so let's say you have the North Node in the ninth house and the South Node in the third house. It's saying like you're very good at moving around in your neighborhood community and staying closely connected to your friends and to your extended family, and doing a lot of like short distance trips and little courses, and you're basically getting pushed out of the nest. Because the North Node is saying, I have a yearning to travel and see the world. And I have a yearning to experience something that I don't even know what it is yet. I need to move away and be away from home for 4 years if that's what it's going to take. Or like I need to go into a Buddhist monastery and stay there for a very, very long time because I've gotten everything that I need from the immediate environment, and now I'm searching for something much greater with greater meaning. Let's reverse it. Let's say you have the North Node in the third house, South Node in the ninth. You may be so used to constantly living abroad or always having these large, bigger than life experiences of learning and traveling. And now you need to get comfortable with actually creating a community with the people that are around you, creating connections with the people that are already in your life, learning, like having a walkable community, having a neighborhood, a sense of community. Because I think with the ninth, there can be this, we don't talk about this as much, but I get the feeling there's almost a feeling of isolation. It's like one person going out and seeking something that's huge and vast. And meet people along the way, but the third is all about your neighborhood and your community and being one person within that community, but seeing that you're part of a greater whole within this like small isolated part of the community. Whereas the greater whole in the ninth house is the universe. The greater whole in the third house is your neighborhood. It's a lot of, I know Austin Coppock is an astrologer and he has his North Node in the third, South Node in the ninth. And he says he feels like that shows up as taking these huge, broad concepts like astrology, things that are like never ending, and putting it into digestible courses, which is represented by the third house. So it's like instead of writing that book, why don't you try a podcast? Instead of writing that book, why don't you try creating a 6-week course? So let's go on to the fourth and the 10th. The fourth is home, family, place of origin. The 10th is career, public acclaim, and like basically the world stage, like who you are and what you've created for yourself, as opposed to the fourth, which is the home you were born into. Let's say you have the north node in the 10th house and the south node in the 10th in the fourth. You are very good at connecting to your familial roots and to your hometown, your place of birth, and you might need to spread your wings and fly, girl, because there is a world stage that is asking for you to step up and to show yourself and to create something far beyond what you were just born into. It's going to ask you to put less focus on your home life and more focus on your career, more focus on what you're creating out in this like big world. It might also ask you to disentangle yourself from teachings of your family, ways of being that you grew up in, because the South Node is a lot about basically letting go. And that's in the fourth and 10th, or first and seventh. These are pillars of our life. So letting go is going to be really tough, really, really tough in these areas. If you have your north node in the fourth, south node in the 10th, it's moving away from needing that public recognition and needing to have this like beautiful career and putting more emphasis and focus on your home, your family, your place of origin. The fourth house can pertain to your physical home where you live, as well as your ancestry. So you might actually feel called to like connect to your ancestry more as you grow older. Let's move on to the fifth and the 10th. The fifth is children, it's creativity, it's sex, dating, like it's anything that you do for fun. The 11th is hopes, dreams, networks, broader communities of people. So, probably my favorite example for this one is let's say you have the North Node in the fifth house and the South Node in the 11th. The North Node in the fifth is asking you to only care about the process of creation. What is it that you're creating? Do you like what you're creating? It's asking you to just get in there and just create, whether it's an art, a business, children. The 11th, having the South Node in the 11th, it's asking you to care less about how other people are going to receive your creations. Let's say you wrote a book and with the North Node of the fifth, your entire thought process should just be about writing this book and moving through that process and not caring how that book is going to be received by the public. And just place all of your attention on actually creating it. If you have the North Node in the 11th and the South Node in the fifth, it's actually disentangling yourself from that creative process a little bit and learning how to put your work into the world, learning how to be like, look, guys, this is what I created, and I'm going to show it to you all. And I'm going to get really comfortable displaying my acts of creation to the public eye, to this broad network of people that's represented by the 11th house. I actually had transits. Um, I had an eclipses through this area of my chart and for a long time. So the north node was in Aries, the south node was in Libra, and so that's in my fifth and 11th house. And what happened was I had to get comfortable basically just putting my work out there. And that was a big part of the lesson of that eclipse for me was I had to just start posting on TikTok and posting on YouTube and creating a podcast and writing and just being more comfortable being out there. I always associate the 11th house with the internet because it's broad networks of people. And I, previous to that, didn't have any social media, was not connected in that way, did not have any online presence at all. And that entire eclipse was just pushing me out the door and being like, you need to just allow yourself to be okay being seen. Because there's like a hermit energy with everything in the fifth. It's like, don't care about anything else, just create. Just go into your workshop and spin your magic there. But the 11th is being like, I'm gonna take what I created in the workshop and I'm gonna show it to people. And it's learning how to allow yourself to be seen, to be visible. It can be a pretty scary thing, right? Let's move on to the 6th and the 12th. So the 6th is your everyday health routines, your body, and your physical health. The 12th is your spiritual wellness. It's your the ways in which you basically work against yourself. It's self-undoing. So having the North Node in the sixth house and the South Node in the 12th would show that you're someone who's already very good at, taking care of yourself mentally and spiritually, and you know your foibles and how you tend to disrupt yourself or be self-destructive. You're very aware of those patterns, and now in this life you need to learn how to create a routine that supports your life. So eat the food that nourishes your body, exercise frequently, bathe regularly, have good hygiene, take care of your physical form. Whereas having the South Node in the sixth and the North Node in the 12th, it's you're already very good at taking care of your physical self, and you need to learn how to take care of your spiritual self, how to identify what ways in which you end up stopping yourself from getting what you want, how to care about the happiness and contentment of your soul and not just the nourishment of your body. So those are the nodes through the signs and through the houses. If you want to learn more about what these eclipses mean for you, please go watch one of my last episodes. It's the eclipse horoscopes for all rising signs from now until 2027. It covers the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. But hopefully now you have a better understanding of what the nodes mean and what they mean in your birth chart specifically. Please, guys, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. If you love this episode and if you want to hear more, please comment. Honestly, as a small creator, comments literally keep me going. It sounds so pathetic, but it's so true. It's just like I love to hear what your thoughts are and how the placements show up in your life. And if you have anything you want me to talk about next, please leave it in the comments. Until then, bye guys. Thank you.